Hare Krishna. So welcome, guys. Welcome, everybody, back to our study. We had a nice practice yesterday. That was a lot of fun. Welcome, Nitai. Nitai, so your first time here. Are you in what country?
Haribol Prabhuji, I am from Chile.
Chile? Right. Nice.
Coranganistas en mi link.
Bienvenidos.
Thank you.
A la
Gracias.
clase de Bhagavad Gītā. ¿Cómo se dice? Memorization.
Memorización.
Memorization. There we go. Hare Krishna. Welcome, Mother Lakshmani, Eben, Chapuji, Carlos, Edward. Thank you all for being here. So today we're shifting over to the energies of the Lord. This section is the HEAD. This is also for everywhere. How to see Krishna everywhere. Krishna's going to give us all kinds of clues how we can find him everywhere. And so he's going to talk about first his various energies. Bhumir apo nalo bhayu kammanubhudare vacha ahankara ityame bina prakriti ashtada. These ashta, or this word ashta means 8, like Ashtanga yoga, the 8-limbed path of yoga. So just a little note about pronunciation. Now, in the Kali Yuga, there's certain things that are forbidden. There's certain things that are forbidden. One thing is the animal sacrifice. Does anybody know why animal sacrifice is forbidden? Yes, Mother Lakshmani.
Because in previous ages, brahmanas were powerful enough to give animals another birth and a higher being, but now they're not anymore, and animal sacrifice is just killing, really, and there's no benefit to it.
And it said, so in this Kali Yuga, Kalo Shudra Sambhava, everyone is born Sudra. No one is born with these superb qualities of a Brahmana, Kshatriya. My son has a question. Here's my son. Hare Krishna. If you have a question for playing on something, you got to ask mommy, not me. I'm in a class. Oh, he's still playing this game where he's mute till 9 o'clock. Is that what you're doing? Okay, he says yes, sir. Mona Vrat. So previously, even like the least powerful Brahmana could light fire with mantra. Yesterday, I read this article. I want to read more into it. How they're using sound to affect the growth of heart tissue. And someone sent me a picture, and they had all these different patterns that were formed by a cell, like groups of cells, and they're formed by different tones that were, I don't know, shot at the cultivated tissue. There's also what is called yantra. Yantra is formed by the use of a tonoscope, where you have like this tube, and then you have a thin membrane, you have some dust, some sand on top. And if you can chant the mantras precisely, then certain forms, certain shapes, geometrical shapes appear on top of the membrane. You might have seen like on YouTube or something like that, where people do different vibrations and it makes some kind of shape. So it's considered very, very powerful. And we may be kind of shooting ourselves in the foot in the sense of like, we're not going to get there. That's not going to happen, where we were able to chant Sanskrit so perfectly that, the fireplace, we want the fireplace to go on, and we just say, Agni, Swaha, and it comes on. We don't have that kind of power. So we try to just say how it looks, how it, try to do the long A's, the long I's, try to say, the appropriate, but don't let it be a shackle to hold you back, because there's no end to how far we are from the perfect Sanskrit chanting. We're going to be completely far from the end game of perfect recitation. Otherwise, we could make like ashtras. We could make all kinds of mystical weapons. We could, float. We could do all kinds of things by the power of mantra. The interesting thing about mantra, Hare Krishna mantra, is that it's called a mantra, but it is nam. It is name, Krishna's name, and we're not relying on the strength of our pronunciation, but we're relying on the strength of Krishna's reciprocation, that we're calling on to Krishna, as Krishna says in Gita, chapter 4, text 11, Ye yatamam prapadyante tam sathaiva bhajamyam. According to how someone surrenders unto me, I respond, I reward them accordingly. He's even kind to the atheist. Someone said, the atheist says there's no God, and he makes himself non-existent for that person. He doesn't see any excuse for Krishna in this world. He just reciprocates with everybody. And the demon wants to fight Krishna, and Krishna gives him a good fight. And he just reciprocates. So I just want to make that note that but we can try, but don't let that be the one of the major issues. One important thing is to understand what we're saying. And I don't know if it was here in Dallas, but they had some kids recite the whole chapter of the Bhagavad Gītā to Srila Prabhupada, and Prabhupada said, "That's very nice. What does it mean?" And they had no idea. So
it was Bhagavatam.
It was Bhagavatam. Okay, a chapter or verse?
It was a chapter, because they used to have a competition in Dallas that if you chanted a whole chapter, you'd get the whole Mahaplate. So the competition was intense.
And that was called the Krishna Bowl?
Yeah, that was a different thing. But they chanted the verse, and then when Prabhupada said, "Very nice, what does it mean?" And they didn't know.
They didn't have any idea what they're saying. Yeah. So luckily we practice here. We get into the verses. And so, yeah, now we are on Bhumir Apo Nalo Vayu. Before I say anything, anybody have any reflections, anything you want to share? Mr. Carlos, anybody? Eben, any reflections, anything you want
to? Well, Carlos and I very, very, very briefly looked at it on Wednesday, and it just struck us that it was kind of like the first couple lines, might be, because it's basically in list form, isn't it? So I don't know, that might make it nice to memorize somewhat. Haven't tried yet, so couldn't say.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So let's go over the elements. So you have Bhumir, Bhumi, Mother Bhumi. Who's Mother Bhumi? Gabi, Chapuji.
Mother Earth.
Mother Earth.
Tierra.
Yeah. Who's here? Watch Avatar, The Last Airbender. Cartoon. Yeah, I watched it with the kids. So there is a King Bhumi. He was the king of the Earth Kingdom. So each kingdom has their powers. There's earth benders, water benders, air benders, and fire benders. They had no ether benders, space benders. That would have been really cool. Like, they didn't have that. They only had 4 elements. They did have a whole scene about the chakras and stuff like that. It was pretty cool. But his name was Bhumi, King Bhumi. So Bhumi is, earth, Bhumi here. And Appa, we talked about this yesterday. Where is the iPad? Did anybody click on the word, see how common that word is? We heard the word jal, used for water. Pibhami means to drink. Appa. Pa is something to do with drinking, because pada pa. What does pada mean? Pada, feet. Yes, nice example. Give us a darshan of your feet, Evan. Thank you. Padapa. Who drinks with their feet?
Plants.
Plants, yes. So another word for plant is padapa. That which drinks with their feet. Apa. So bhumir apo, apa, nala. Nala, you can just do that so we don't forget. Nala, this is the fire. And we sing Sangsara Dhava Nala Lidha Loka. This is an early morning song at every Hare Krishna temple at 4:30 every morning. And it's saying that the sangsara, this cycle of birth and death, is like a davanala. It is like a forest fire. But the spiritual master is like a cloud he's carrying that rain that of ocean, from the ocean of mercy of Krishna, pouring it down. So nala, fire. All kinds of fires, or different kinds of fires. The Vedic idea is that when we speak about fire, it doesn't just necessarily mean like the fire that you see that you burn your hand. There's all kinds of fire. Any kind of thing that it has a type of energy transference that is actually changing the qualities, the elements within something. It changes the constitution of something. Like you have what is called digestive fire. We did this in 15th chapter. Ham Vaishnavanaro Bhutva. That's a particular type of digestive fire. Now, it doesn't mean there are flames in the belly, but you put in some kind of fuel in there, food, and there's a chemical fire that extracts something out of it. You could say calories or heat, take some things out of it. It produces some ash or some kind of waste. Or if you have a book like this, this is Prakriti. This is a Ayurveda book. You can find that it goes a lot into the science of digestive fire. Here, this is what Prakriti has to say about the 5 great elements, the Mahabhutas. Earth, solid state of matter, whose characteristic attribute is stability, fixity, or rigidity. Earth is a stable substance. Water, the liquid state of matter, whose characteristic attribute is flux. Water is substance without stability. Fire, the power that can convert a substance from solid to liquid to gas, or vice versa, increasing or decreasing the substance relative order. Fire is a form without substance. Its characteristic attribute is transformation. Air, the gaseous state of matter, whose characteristic attribute is mobility, dynamism. Air is existence without form. Space, the field from which everything is manifested, into which everything returns. The space in which events occur. Space, in brackets, which can also be translated as ether, has no physical existence. It only exists as the distances that separate matter. There you go. Cool stuff there. So earth, water, fire, air, ether. Now, the 5 gross elements, they each have their tactile, aspect to it. They're all related to the sensory perception that is facilitated by that element. So does anybody know some of the things that are related to what element is vision related to? Mr. Carlos.
Vision. So light. I would say fire. I'm not sure.
Turn off the lights. Your eyes don't work. Stop working. No light, no vision. Okay. Taste is related to What? Edward G?
Is it water?
Yes, this is related to water. Touch is related to what? Chapo G?
Maybe wind.
Yes. Sound is related to space. Now, when we say, wait a minute, how does sound travel through a vacuum? Well, there's something called subtle sound. Just, you know, the thoughts within your mind, that is also subtle sound. This is a actually here, I have a really cool quote. Let's hear it. You guys ready? It's about sounds. Evernote. That's where I keep my notes. Because when someone would say, well, if you take out, you know, if you make a vacuum and you have just pure space, no air, then sound doesn't travel. Isn't that correct? That's what we hear. You know, the other elements that we can understand, you know, earth, there must be some kind of particle or something that causes fragrance. Water, you know. Okay, let's see. Bhagavad Gītā. Scroll down to chapter 7. I think it's in chapter 7. Maybe at the top. Hold on. Here it is. Sound is analyzed. This is from Gita Bhushana by Baladev Vibhushan. Sound is analyzed in 4 stages. The first stage of sound is called para, the subtlest stage of sound, which arises as the prana in the Muladhara chakra at the base of the spine. Okay, you're gonna have to ask a yogi for, you know, go to Himalayas to get some more clarification. Second stage is called pashanti, which appears on the mental level in the mani, or I'd say mental here also, manipuraka chakra in the navel. The third stage is called madhyama, which arises on the intellectual level on anahata chakra in the heart area. The fourth stage is called Vaikari, which arises from the throat. With intelligible meaning as sentences. And it continues on. I am the pranava in all Vedas, since the pranava is the root, which finally manifests as the fourth stage of sound, called Vaikari, in which sound is audibly manifest in the form of full, intelligible sentence heard as the Vedas. I am the sense object known as sound and ether. The elements ether, air, fire, water, and earth all rise from the respective sense objects: sound, touch, form, taste, and smell. So you guys all heard of the Big Bang? There was like basically there was nothing. And Mother Nothing was giving a hard time to little Nothing, and she was like, "Do something with yourself. You're just doing nothing." And he got really upset and and he exploded, and he went in all directions. And eventually, over time, he's, you know, like a young man eventually does, he settles down, and his rock starts forming. And then on one of those rocks, these are 2 smaller rocks, they fell in love. They gave birth to a mouse. Then the 2 mice gave birth to a sheep, a black sheep in the family. And then gave birth to Uncle Harry and Lucy, who's swinging on our family tree. So this is the basic idea of Big Bang. Um, from nothing came something. Now in the Vedas, there is a similar description, and you find in the scientific understanding, there is this understanding from very subtle, not very um, not a very much carrying substance, or it becomes more and more complex. So in the Vedas, if you study what is called Sankhya means to count. Like if you become an accountant, you can call yourself a Sankhya yogi, maybe a Sankhya karmi or something. So Sankhya is to count, and it's where you basically analyze the different elements that are in this world. And so in Sankhya, it's describing how when it deals with creation, it deals with how it comes from the subtle to the more gross. And it's a little hard to understand. It comes from, it's actually the very subtle, even more subtle than the element, is the perception that the element provides. So it goes the other way around. So from sound, like it says, how do I do that? Bring it here. Okay. All right. He wants time on the laptop. Okay. He's still doing his playing his mute game. He gave me a little letter. So from the sound, like they say, the beginning was the word, and the word was God. So the most subtle is that perception of sound. So from the perception of sound comes ether. And from ether comes, after that comes the perception of touch. And then from that perception of touch, then comes air. I don't know. I would have to look. It's all in the third canto, second canto of the Bhagavad Gītā. All right, let's see. Here you go. Okay, is it working? Kind of stuck.
Chapter.
Here you go. You can give it a try. So if that makes perfect sense, I'm great for you. It's not so. It's a complex subject. Yeah, it's the elemental creation understanding that's come from the Bhagavatam. It's a little complex, and it's not something that we're.
But Prabhuji,
Yes.
I was thinking one thing. Maybe if we go to the Sanskrit, sound is separated in different words. So one thing is shabda, and one thing is dhvani. And dhvani is the word for sound, but ephemeral. Ephemeral?
Ephemeral. Oh, okay. Yeah.
So this sound is what we can listen, and shabda is like eternal sound. Yeah.
Nice.
So it's like the one potential of it can be a sound, but it's not sound in like ephemeral. You understand?
Nice. Yeah. Good point.
So Sanskrit is very specific with that. So
Yes.
if we go to one dictionary of Sanskrit, dhvani and shabda are two things.
Nice.
If we want to go to scientific things, yeah.
Nice. Thank you so much. So there's so if we want to say, like, if we were to explain, if we go to some university and it says, oh, there's 8 elements, you're like, come on, everything's not made out of mud, dirt, water, air. There's other things in that. Well, these are actual principles. Like earth is something that has that stability, that mass. So if you go down all the way down to an atom, you got the proton and neutron, and we learned they have mass. So that is called bhumir. There's earth there. Then you have, even water has here it talks about fluidity, but another quality of water is cohesiveness. You take the water out of the body, it is just dust. So proton, neutron stuck together. There's this energetic principle of cohesiveness. Then you have fire. What is that? The electron. This is a transformation of energy, or this is energy. And then also air is the principle of movement. That's why if you're Vata dosha, if you're like in your Ayurveda, your constitution is air constitution, things like travel really have a negative effect if you don't balance it out, because you're already high level of air constitution within the body, and then extra movement like flying in a jet, it causes more Vata to increase. So therefore you should maybe eat some nuts, something grounding, something stable, something to counterbalance. Like increases like, and opposites balance on these elements. You also have these elements in the flavors, like I could probably look that up. Flavors and the different elements. What are the flavors? Does anybody know what are the different flavors that you have?
Sure, I can remember at least two.
Let's see. Let me put sour. It tells you the elements. No, not source. Sour. Getting different notes that are coming up. Okay, I'll put more pungent. Pungent. Oh, it does not come up. Never mind. Sorry. So yeah, there's sweet, sour, pungent, bitter, astringent. And this one, sweet, sour, pungent, bitter, astringent. Yeah, I got them.
Salty.
Salty, yes. Yeah. It's not coming up in my notes. Anyway. So each element has, it's each of the flavors are related to these Mahabhutas, these 5 elements. And if you're only eating a particular flavor, then you're only increasing that one particular element within the body. So what do you think pungent is? What element is spicy? What elements are in spicy of the 5 great elements? Any guess?
Fire.
Fire. And what makes fire hotter?
Air.
Yes, fire and air makes pungent, makes spicy. And you have, I think, water and earth, or water and fire. I think water and fire is salty. Each flavor has its psychological. I don't know why this does not come up on my notes, because I had a note on it. Each flavor has its own psychological attribute in a proper dose and in excess. Like if you eat a sweet, it gives some kind of sense of satisfaction. But if you eat too much sweets, it gives a sense of lethargy, just kind of like overly satisfied, not very motivated. Similarly, you eat something spicy, it gives you some motivation, but too much motivation, too much ambition, become angry, spicy character. Salty, it gives some zest, but too much salt, you become like a salty sailor returning from the sea, looking for the, going to the brothels. Or bitter, that's a nice one. So if you have some bitter experience of life, what has any of you been to a fragrant oil shop? And so you smell 1, you smell 2, you smell 3, and then what happens to your nose?
Doesn't work anymore. You can't tell them apart.
Can't. So what do they get you to, what do they do to reset your nose?
They use coffee beans.
Coffee.
Coffee. So coffee is very bitter and it resets your nose. It's often, you can start your meal with something bitter and it gives a fresh sense to your palate. Now, to a little bitterness in your life, what does it do? Slaps you around, gives you a little kind of reality check. It gives you be able to reset. Oh, wait a minute. I've been kind of living in the clouds a little bit. But too much bitter is you're just too much bitter in your life, then you become kind of disillusioned. It's too much to handle. Let's see. Son's gonna try it again. Let's see. Okay, looks like it worked this time, Ramananda. Here you go. There you go. So you have, just to sum up these 8 elements, you got your 5 gross elements: earth, water, fire, air, ether. Then you've got the subtle elements, the subtle body, the mind, the intelligence, and the false ego. What is that called? That's the Antar Sharira, Shukshma Sharira, these different Shariras. Does anybody know the terms for that? Let me see. I had that somewhere too. Different terms. Unless that notice disappeared as well. Sharira. You have your different Shariras, different bodies. So you have the gross body, the subtle body, and then you have the self. So my iPad's going to be the gross body, and we're going to have the Dhanvantari book here be the subtle body. We're going to have the Bhagavad Gītā as the self. So going along, up, dying, getting old. Leave the gross body behind, but the subtle body is carrying the self to its next destination. Does anybody remember that in Bhagavad Gītā? What is that, Carlos G? So this says Shariram Yadavapnoti Yachchapi Kamatishva Prihikritani Samyati Vayu Gandharva. Just like air is carrying aroma, it's carrying Mevam Shojiva Loka, Jiva Bhuta Sanatana, Manasastani Indriyani, Prakatistani Karshati, Shariram Yadavapnoti Yachchapi Kamatishvara, Prihikritani Samyati Vayu Ganashota. So he's being carried to the next body. And he's carrying his mind, intelligence, and even his subtle senses from one body to another, unless he gets placed into another body with another set of gross eyes, nose, tongue, 5, 8, yes. So the subtle body is the astral body, the mental body. What happens if you get killed in a car accident? Sometimes you're super attached to your house. Can you take birth as a house? This is what you think about at the time of death. You become. So you can't take birth as a house. So what happens is you just become a ghost in the house, and you can hang out in the house as a ghost. Just have your subtle body, no gross body, no physical body by which you can make some progress. But in normal circumstance, your subtle body carries you to your next destination, and you take birth again into another body. So Bhumir Apo Nalo Bhayu Kamana Bhudere Bacha. Now we'll get to practice in just a second. So you have Manas. Mana is the heart. Mind is the heart of accepting and rejecting. Manas, mind, is the heart of emotion. Like you can enjoy on the physical level. That's the level of the gross elements. And then you can enjoy, animals are generally enjoying mostly on the physical level. When you get to the emotional level, then there's some animals that also enjoy there. But we may, music and romance and TV. That's mostly just some emotional enjoyment. And then we can enjoy on the intellectual level, the buddhi, the intelligence. You know? And then we can also enjoy on the soul level. It's different. What is that? The Anamaya Kosh, Pranamaya Kosh, Viganamaya Kosh. These different layers that we can kind of operate within. Okay, so let's look at the verse and give it a practice. So one point about the purport, I like the Prabhupada says in the purport, basically he starts talking about the Purusha avatars. And you may ask, well, why is he talking about the Purusha avatars? Purusha avatars are the 3 giant forms of Vishnu who manifest this universe. And basically he's saying, who's the man? That, because it's alluding to the next verse, number 5, where we're trying to take this matter and it's mine. So this purport, Prabhupada saying, who's the man? He's the Purusha. Krishna is the Purusha. It's his energy, but we're busy trying to exploit it for ourselves. Yeah, see there's a long explanation of the Purushas. And then it goes, yeah. Yeah, so basically, yeah, we're trying to enjoy this matter for ourselves. These are all Krishna's energies. So Bhumir, Apa, Manas and Buddhir, and then Ahankara is that principle Prabhupada says here, I am, false ego, and it is mine. Aham means I, and Kara means doer. But you could also just say I am Kar, Aham Kar, I am this Kar, I am this body. Okay, so let's give it a shot. Bhumir apo nalo vayu.
Bhumir apo nalo vayu.
Kammano bhudir evacha.
Kammano bhudir evacha.
Ahankara iti yame.
Ahankara iti yame.
Bina prakritir ashtada.
Bina prakritir ashtada.
Bhumir apo nalo vayu.
Bhumir apo nalo vayu.
Kammano bhudir evacha.
Kammano bhudir evacha.
Ahankara iti yame.
Ahankara iti yame.
Bina prakritir ashtada.
Bina prakritir ashtada.
Okay. Edward. New shot.
Just gotta grab it because my memory goes away when people are listening to me.
All right. Yeah.
Bhumir apo nalo vayu.
Bhumir apo nalo vayu.
Kammano bhudir evacha.
Kammana bhudir evacha.
Ahankara iti yame.
Ahankara iti yame.
Bina prakritir ashtada.
Bina prakritir ashtada. And there's one word, there's cha. In that cha, it's actually including all the other, there's 24 elements. And so within the cha, it's referring to we call the word is usually used as senses. I think, kind of organs kind of maybe a little bit easier to understand because you have what is called the working senses, but those are not sensory perception items. They're working organs. So those are the legs, the arms, the mouth, the genital, and the anus. That's what the body performs action, does things with those working organs. Then you have the sensory organs, which is the eyes, the ears, the nose, the sense of touch, the skin, eye, ear, nose, sense of touch. What am I missing? Taste, the tongue. Yeah. So that's 10 right there. Then you have the 5 great elements: earth, water, fire, air, ether. That's 15. Then you have the subtle elements: mind, intelligence, and false ego. That's 18. What else were we missing? Then you have the 5 perceptions. That's the sense of touch, the sense of taste, sense of smell, the sight and hearing. That's 23. And then you have the self, and I believe then you can also add Krishna. It becomes more and more. Yeah. Super soul. I think you got it all there. And in the 11th canto, as we mentioned in the yesterday's practice, it talks about the Sankhya, and it talks about different divisions. And in the 11th canto of Bhagavatam, it says, some people say it's 5. Some people say it's 24. Some people would say it's 17. They kind of all, and the answer is that all those sages, he says all those sages who say those things, they're right, because these elements are kind of not in they're kind of overlapping in the sense that one comes out of the other. So you could include by name, if you say, there's actually in this whole universe, there's nothing but 10 elements, or nothing but 17. It could be said that way because those things are within. They're coming out of, the water is coming out of sound. This is the next element that's above it.
Prabhu, I have a question.
Yes.
So does the false ego go, for example, you have like the topmost Brahma, right? Brahma, sorry. Yeah. He also has false ego?
Oh, yes.
And
I am Brahma. So
the point of this, like to achieve Krishna consciousness, is to shed off that false ego, correct?
Yeah, and it's described that this material universe has those 8 layers. It's like a shell, and each layer is 10,000 times bigger than the previous layer. So unless you are free from all these elements, you're not getting out of here. It's here. Actually, I have a little. This is and I don't know if you can see it. Let's see. Maybe I can pull it on the screen here, and I can show you something. 1 second. Good. Notion. Have you guys ever seen a website called Notion? Notion, you can make a. Okay, where do you do screen? How do you do screen sharing?
I probably have to make you host again.
Oh yeah, please make me host again. Okay, now we're going to go to Notion. Okay, so this is something I've been working on, the gunas, 3 modes of nature, to make it easy to perceive: sattva, rajas, tamas, early morning, daytime till twilight, and late evening, place of residence, sattva, rajas, tamas, food, sattva, rajas, tamas. Ooh, look at that. And these are all things from Bhagavad Gītā, mostly tangled by sattva, rajas, tamas. Now, if you go down here, it talks about the during the process of universal creation, sattva mixed with the false ego creates the mind and the 10 sense devatas. Sattva mixed with rajas makes prana, and the 10 senses and the intelligence, and false ego mixed with raja, sorry. And false ego mixed with tama makes the more physical things, the 5 tanmatras, and the 5 elements. Jnana Shakti, Kriya Shakti, Dravya Shakti, powers that evolve matter, knowledge of material creations, and initiation that creates, and the intelligence that guides material activities.
Is that easily found on notion.so, or are you able to send a link by any chance?
Yeah, I can send the link, yeah. And if you want to add to it, I want it to be comprehensive as possible, because and 3 modes of nature is a new topic for so many people. Like even in the yoga community, there's oftentimes not a real understanding that sattva is it's not like Ayurveda where the pitta and kapha, there's no value. There's nothing like one's better than the other. But in Bhagavatam and Gita and the Vedas, that definitely the modes of nature, one is better than the other. You want to be in sattva. You want to avoid being controlled by raja. Here's a real example. I have a section on Ayurveda. Ayurveda manifested. Does anybody know what your dosha is? Does anybody here know your Ayurvedic dosha? So if you're a vata, if you're kind of airy, when you're in sattva guna, you're energetic, you're adaptable, you're flexible. However, you're not going to change your Ayurvedic constitution, but you can change the mode of nature that you're in. Now, if you're a vata and rajas, you're going to be total airhead, indecisive, unreliable, hyperactive, agitated. Now, if you're a vata in the mode of ignorance, you're going to be fearful, servile, dishonest, secretive, drug addict. If you're a pitta, you're intelligent, clear, that's kind of that sharp discernment, that fiery mind. Pitta in the mode of passion, impulsive, ambitious, aggressive. Pitta in mode of ignorance, underworld figure. There you go. Drug dealer, psychopath, criminal. Slow, thief, dull, gross, kapha. You see, so.
This just remind me of I met a devotee that was treating drug addicts with Ayurvedic medicine treatment.
Oh, see, yeah.
And he was very successful, more than any institution that I've seen so far. The guy is like, he put drug addicts and people with those kind of problems to live in a farm.
Yeah, then he's changing their gunas, not just their
yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's a beautiful work he's doing.
Nice. Yeah, please take a look at this. So let's okay, let me close this share. How do you close that? Where do you go?
You're going to send us a link?
Oh, yes. Let me send you a link. How do I close this share screen? Oh, stop share. Okay, let's go. How do I let's click share. And here's going to be a link. Chat.
I have a quick question, Prabhu, if that's okay.
Oh, yes.
Is it correct to think that this verse is introducing how to understand the difference between the material and the spiritual nature? So it's kind of introducing the idea of Maya and the illusion of the material world. Is that what it's starting to introduce? Is that where it's going?
Yeah. And the next verse gives the context. So the next verse is, I have 2 energies. I have my gross, I have the gross physical world, but then there's another. Anya means other. There's another energy of mine, and that's the soul. And he is trying to control and exploit all these material energies. And so they're distinct from each other. And so, yeah, that's perfect. So, Evan, you're next. Give us a chant of the verse.
Okay. Bhumir apo nalo vayu kammano buddhir evacha ahankar ityame bina prakritir ashtadha.
And we can also think of like different, okay, bhumir, something stable, bhumir, apa, nala, vayu, kam, manur, bhudir. I guess this is like the heart, the emotions, because manas doesn't mean the intelligence, like we think mind, we think brain, but we want to really think like, I like this, I don't like this, I like this, I don't like this.
Impulsiveness. Impulsiveness, right?
It's the heart of impulsiveness. It's when you wake up in the morning, you got your mind saying, Evan, you know, just enjoy life. just take it easy, relax, Evan. And then
so convincing. It's so convincing.
And then your intelligence is like 20 minutes. You got to go to work. You got to be there in 20 minutes. The mind's, so you have these two opposing kind of characteristics of what you're hearing in your head. You have this, what is as satisfying, the what you like, and the intelligence is a steady factor. I am from England. There's like intelligence. It's something that's not. It's something that's not changing. My name is Evan. Okay. Carlos D, you're up next. You want to give a chat?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So, Bhumirapo nalo vayu kammano buddhirevacha ahankara iti yamem bina prakritirashtada.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And one note I like to put is that I put that meter drop on that ahankara iti yame, because it's a long iti yame bina prakritir ashtada. Chapuji.
Bhumirapo nalo vayu kammano buddhirevacha
Kammana bhudirevacha
ahankara iti amme
ahankara iti yame
bhina prakritir ashtadha.
bina prakritir ashtada. Garanganishta.
Bhumir apo nalo vayu
Bhumir apo nalo bhayu
kammano buddhirevacha
kammana bhudirevacha
ahankara iti yamme
ahankara iti yamme
bina prakritirastada.
bina prakritir ashtada. If for that thing that I put on the Notion website, if you have any pictures or anything that you think are related, yeah, send them to me, because I want to make that a real cool resource for anybody who wants to
I
learn or explain the three modes of nature.
I once had a student who made video. I'll see if I can get them. He made video of the three modes. And also included like beyond the modes, Sudasattva.
Oh,
and
yeah, we
then
have that.
He asked our class to chant japa while looking at the different short videos of the three modes of material nature. It was so much harder to chant when you were looking at the mode of ignorance and the mode of passion. It got easier when you were looking at goodness, and so it was an interesting learning experience.
Nice thing. So Edward, where would be a house in the mode of passion?
I'm not even sure if I can understand the question. Sorry.
So do you know the three modes of nature? Have you gone through that subject?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
There's Rajas, mode of passion would be ambition. I'm going to be powerful. So a home that is in the mode of passion would probably be a skyrise in the city.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, yeah.
And the mode of goodness would be like a home by with a lakeside view, with the swans in the water.
Mm.
And then home in the mode of ignorance is like in the red light district. You got to go down like the sub basement kind of, and there's like a bar next door, and there's prostitutes walking the street.
Right, right.
And then there's something beyond that, a home in Shuddha-sattva, beyond the modes. It could be in any of those locations, as long as there's really Krishna's being heavily glorified there, then that place becomes sanctified. Therefore, you can have a temple in the city, and it's even has a greater feel than the countryside view. You can have this magical feel while still being in the city. Of course, in the temple, we're invoking that mode of goodness. We're keeping it clean. We're not keeping the temple all dirty and filthy and all those things. Mother Lakshmani, your turn. You're up. I'm gonna give it a chant.
Okay, yeah. Bhumir apana lovayo.
Bhumir apo nalovayo.
Kamano buddhir evacha.
Kamana bhudir evacha.
Ahankara itiyame.
Ahankara itiyame.
Bina prakritir ashtada.
Bhina prakritir ashtada. Okay. Anybody? Everybody get a chance to do it once at least?
I think our time is up.
Okay. Edward, you want to give another shot again?
Bhumir apo nalovayu.
Bhumir apo nalovayu.
Kamano buddhir evacha.
Kamana bhudir evacha.
Oh, it's gone again. Ahankara iti yambe.
Ahamkara iti yame.
Bina prakritir ashtada.
Bina prakritir ashtada. Actually, I just opened the page of this book where it does talk about the flavors. Would anybody want to hear about the flavors and their psychological? I think we already covered sweet, too much sweet, complacency, and greed. Satisfaction, success, in moderation. Sour. What is sour? What kind of emotion do you think sour invokes? What kind of mentality?
Resentment, maybe.
That's, yeah, exactly. So a little bit of sour. Sour is a sharp flavor. Like if you think of somebody who is very discerning, like can analyze, it's got that kind of critique, energy to it. But too much is like everything is like it's sour grapes, like the sour grapes is this fox was jumping to catch these grapes and he just could not catch it. He said those grapes are sour. So that resentment is there. Salty, we said, becomes like the old salt, the old salty dog if he has too much salt, but a little zest for life. Enhances all appetites. Gives a little, but overindulgence leads to hedonism. Pungent, little extroversion, tendency for excitement, stimulation, but too much spice, anger, instability. We already did bitter, and there's a flavor that we're not very common with, is astringent, which is that raw banana, unripe banana. So that it's introversion. It drags the mind away from excitement and stimulation. But astringency causes contraction, which makes you shrivel up like a prune, clamps up like a cold, bony hand of fear around your throat. So excessive introversion, insecurity, anxiety, and fear. So Ayurveda, you balance all these flavors. That's part of the balanced meal. Is making sure you have the different flavors. It says here, effects on the consciousness. Bitter is the best taste. You got to have some salad, have some greens. Bitter is better. That's what Dr. Vasant Lad says. It helps it helps to balance all the other tastes in the body. Now, American diet, what flavor is most common? Sweet, yes. Because the carbohydrates, those are sweets. The breads, and then we don't even bread by itself is a sweet. It's all those carbs are in the sweet category. They just digest as sweets. And then in America, we put sugar in everything. We put sugar like, I saw this article. It was describing in England where they have Mr. Eben. They showed the different ingredients, and in America, like they put sugar in the meat. Even they put sugar in everything in America. So we have this. And also, so we have the sense of we want to enjoy everything. It's all about enjoyment. We need a little bit of bitterness, some clarity, a little like slap, 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 so we can kind of like, oh, wait a minute, there's something more than this. So any last reflections? Anybody want some last reflections? Let's see.
I do have one.
Yes, please.
I like this shloka particularly because it brings a lot of thoughts to me. Like, for example, before reading it, I begin to think, of course, it's his energies, because like fire or water are elements that purify us. I mean, the four of them could do that, but basically, right, in a puja, when I'm doing puja, a fire it's a purifying element, right? And
yes.
And when you are on samadhi, they will fire you up to purify your body, right? And then water does the same. After I did a puja, I perform puja. What I do, I grab all the elements and I clean them with what? Water to purify.
Even air. Krishna says, of purifiers, I'm the wind. And then sound, the ether.
Yeah. So
about earth, like if you don't have soap, if you're if you're like in some rural country, you don't have soap, you take some mud and you start scrubbing yourself down with the mud and rinse yourself off.
Yeah, exactly, right. So it brings these elements to.
And you can also even put mud on your face and invoke the mantras. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So
wish I'd known those mantras at the Dead Sea.
Say it again.
Wish I'd known those mantras when I was getting the Dead Sea mud on me.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, you could put some tilak, Dead Sea tilak.
And so it brings these from the elements to the more subtle ones, right? But even then, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego, right? All of them create my perception to be right here, right now.
Yeah.
So they're all necessary. I can't fight them. Rather, I will accept them, and then from that on, I can move from that consciousness, right? because I will always be there. I mean, even Krishna, he says, okay, when I'm on earth, I get, yoga maya on me, so I can perform my pastimes and have fun. Otherwise, I'll know I'm going to win because I'm God, right? So if big personalities still fall into these situations, right, and how, I mean, we will all do. So I don't try to fight them. I just accept them. I think that's what it makes me feel like studying it. Because the first thought is always like, oh yeah, but ego is so bad, and it's like, happens all the time. But then I'm not trying to do that anymore. It brings me to another understanding, I guess is the word. All that's about it.
Thank you. That you find in I'm trying to find the verse in the Bhagavad Gītā. Krishna starts talking about how the soul nainam chindanti sahasrani nainam dahati pavakaha. What is pavakaha, Carlos?
Fire or electricity.
Yes. Nainam chindanti sahasrani. It's here, I found it. Nainam chindanti sahasrani. Nainam dahati pavaka. Nachainam kledyanta po apa. Nashochiti maruta. So you see, Krishna is saying the soul is not affected by these elements. He cannot be cut. Nainam chindanti sahasrani. So that's relating to that earth element, that stability. Nainam chindanti sahasrani. Then nainam dahati pavaka. He cannot be burnt by fire. Nainam chedanti akledapo. He cannot be moistened by water. Right. And shoshati cannot be dried by wind. Maruta. The individual soul this is 23 and 24. The individual soul is unbreakable, insoluble, can neither be burned nor dried, is everlasting, present everywhere, unchangeable, movable, and eternally the same. So he specifically invokes weapons that attack specific elements. Attack the earth element, water weapons, air weapons, fire weapons. And he says none of those things affect the self, the soul. So I think we're done here. Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna. Om Tat Sat. Thanks a lot. Hari Hari.
Thank you so much. Hari Bol.